Hello and welcome back. This is Module 2. So hopefully you have watched Module 1 and gained some new ideas and perspective on your style and also broke into your creativity. This module is going to be more focused about creative thinking and problem solving, which I think several of you are most excited about. And this is honestly one of my favorite things that I've learned so far in my degree journey. So the topic I'm going to be covering is called Appreciative Inquiry. There are a couple different iterations of it that I'm going to cover as well, such as appreciative coaching. And also there's a component of it called generative. So generative conversations, generative questions. So to begin, I'm going to start with this is the book that was the basis of everything. So it's called Conversations Worth Having, and it's by Jackie Stravos and Sherry Torres. Appreciative Inquiry was originally created by David Cooper Ryder, and these authors took his concept and, in my opinion, brought it to real life. Throughout this book, I recommend it. It's a very easy read because most of it are stories of different situations in a workplace, different personal situations, and how you can use this concept in both the professional and the personal lives. So essentially what the concept is it's flipping a situation from a negative into a positive. That's the very basis of it. If you don't remember anything else, just remember that. So instead of looking something as a problem of this never works, I'm always late, I'm in debt, whatever the situation is, it's always the negative. And by flipping it more to a positive of something that you want to achieve or overcome, it does actually change something in our brain that I'll get on later, but it changes that perspective and allows us to think more creatively by removing that restriction. And one of the videos that I researched as part of my project was a video by, her name is Eve Ash. She's a psychologist, and she is interviewing Kylie Bell, who is a leadership development expert. And one of the things that I really liked about the thing that she mentioned was that fixing problems, as if we look at it just as that state, it's only getting us back to where we should be, right? It's not achieving anything. It's not getting anywhere else. It's fixing a problem to get back to where it should be. And when we look at that, it's not allowing that unrestricted creative side of our thinking. So instead, using this concept of appreciative inquiry allows us to reach forward without those boundaries and looking to see what all is possible, which is why I chose the background of this. So there's no limits, the sky's the limit, and really just letting our creative side of our brain think through. So getting back to the appreciative inquiry, the three kind of initial components of it are to name it. So name whatever it is. What is the problem or what is the complaint? So what is it that is the object of your focus? And then you flip it to be a positive. So again, instead of saying I'm always late, say I want to be on time, right? You just flip it. Pretty elementary, I know, but it really does make a difference. And then from that, you frame it. So what would that look like once you achieve it? You know, if I was on time or if I'm always on time, then I'm more productive in my day. Or, I mean, it's a very elementary example, but hopefully you can kind of see what it means. The other piece of this that I wanted to pull out, so as an example that's given in the book, was a situation in a workplace. So saying that we have a problem, you're always late and missing deadlines, you have to change, right? Very negative, very focused on feeling down about yourself. And so instead, it's flipped to do, you know, you're a really good worker, your input is important and valued, and it's important to our team's success. Because of that, it's really vital that everyone arrive on time and make sure that they're ready for meetings and make deadlines on time. When you're late, it affects all of us. What ideas do you have to for how we plan and schedule things that could resolve this. So instead of just focusing on the negative, it's asking those generative questions on how can we make this better, right? These are all the things that are achievable if we can accomplish this, and how, with opening that question, how does that look? And what ideas does that person have? So it's also inviting them into the solution, which I think is also important. So let me just pull in one of the other things that I wanted to mention. So these generative questions are really these open-ended questions of how to start bringing in that participation, and even for yourself too, asking these questions to yourself and thinking about the answers actually does surprise, at least it surprised me, of like, oh, I hadn't really thought about that before until I phrased it that way. So kind of asking when does that ideal state happen? Like, for example, it says, when are patients satisfied? What worked well in the past? What can we replicate? What best practices are there, right? It's these questions that are pulling out more information than just a yes or a no. Again, simple stuff, but when it's all paired together, it really does start to make a little bit of a difference. What's important to you, what drives you, even something as simple as, what do you think, right? Without any kind of phrasing, just what do you think about this situation? So the 5 steps of appreciative inquiry, and you don't have to all remember this or anything, but just to kind of help put it in the perspective of fully the 4 or the 5 different steps that there are. The first one is define. So again, that's name it. So what is the item that's needing to be addressed? The second piece is discover. So what is currently in place that is working well today that we want to continue to grow off of? The next step is dream. So then take it beyond that. What would it happen if, what would it look like if we hit that 100% of the time? And then you design. So now we start to think through, how do we get there? What are the steps that we need to make sure to get this? What does the time frame look like? And that's really where a lot of those generative questions start to come into play. And then the last step, which is the best part, is deployment. Okay, we've planned it out, we've dreamed it, now let's actually execute it. And if you hit those stumbling blocks during that deployment phase, you just go back and say, okay, how can we succeed in this next step? How can we get there? What steps can we put in first? What's worked so far? So those are the 5 different steps. See, that one I already covered. Sorry, I was just like looking at my book notes. So I mentioned that there was a science component of this with our brains, shocker, but it actually does come into play. So one of the examples that they give in the book is this person that had an argument with their boss and left the day feeling like they were going to lose their job. That they were going to go into work the next day or the next week, or when they have their performance review, and they're going to get let go. So they go home after that conversation without the boss even saying anything, right? It just was a bad toned conversation, and the person took this away as a feeling, not confirmed. Went home, and their spouse said, hey, let's go out to dinner. And this person, because they were in a negative mindset and fearful of what they were going to lose, of course, is short-tempered and combative, and says, no, we can't do that. I don't know. I don't feel right doing that, or whatever the case may be. But basically it puts you in that negative mindset. Whereas instead, if it had been a positive conversation that manager would have had with that employee, of saying, like, we have these concerns, but this is what's working well. What can we do different to get better over here? And then those other situations will address themselves. that person would have left work that day feeling hopeful, and their spouse would ask them if they would go out to dinner, and they say, yeah, you know what, I had a rough day, but I feel like we had a productive conversation and I have a good feeling about going forward, so yeah, let's go out to dinner. It's that mindset, especially as consultants and mentors and coaches and leaders, that we just need to keep in mind. If when we talk to others, especially in a position of authority or trusted advisor status, that we come forward in more of a positive mindset, because we have to keep in mind those conversations that we're going to have with those individuals. And we want them to feel empowered about changing the position or their circumstance, instead of feeling defeated by it and it controlling them. So again, there's a deeper psychological side of it as well. But then on the other side, so it also gives an example of this police task force, and they were going to go in and do a drug bust. And before they went in to the place, they took a moment and just did a quick little imagery session. I know it sounds funny, but they did a quick little imagery of just some place where they felt at peace, they felt happy, just like 10 seconds. And then they went and proceeded in with the raid, was successful, and no one got injured or otherwise hurt. And so basically it's a technique that was originally found by Heart Math Institute, and they research neurological items such as that. And basically that the Institute discovered that positive imagery plus recalling positive experiences can bring the nervous system into coherence. And coherence produces brain chemistry that allows more complete access to the neocortex, which is where all reasoning and critical thinking take place. So that's the other component of this, is by putting yourselves in a positive mindset, it really does open up that side of your brain from a science perspective, of feeling empowered, feeling like you can actually think through and problem solve on this. I want to flip really quick over to appreciative coaching. So there was an article that I had pulled in as part of my project from Rose Helen's Heart, and it's just called Appreciative Coaching for Student Academic and Professional Development. And basically what she found was, as an instructor, especially for college prep or professional, looking into your professional career as you're getting ready to graduate high school or with your degree, and what does that career path look like, and how do you get there, and how do you achieve it after you graduate. She put this appreciative inquiry into more of a coaching and an academic session. And so basically what she did is, there was different components of it, very similar to the appreciative inquiry. One is topic selection. So that's almost kind of like the define it. So what do you want to do? Do you want to have better grades? Do you want to have better test scores? Do you want to have a job when you graduate? Like, what is it that you're defining that your target's going to be? And then you go through the discovery stage with each one of the students. So again, this is that looking on, well, what's worked well? What classes have you really enjoyed? What projects have you worked on that's given you inspiration? So it's tapping into that, what has worked well in that discover phase. And then it goes the dream stage. So what do you want to do? What would that look like? And then it goes into the design and the destiny. So again, it's the same 5 steps, but a different focus area. And what she found was the students that went through that exercise compared to just the normal is they had diminished career preparation anxiety. So their anxiety went down for that. They had better self-confidence, better relationships with their instructors and peers during and after the end of the course. So their whole experience was better. And that's what I really love about this, is it's so much more than what is kind of on the surface in how it impacts others. And as consultants and mentors, we can use that in our interactions with our clients and with those that we're helping to coach and mentor. So as a example, and then I'll wrap up here really quickly, an example of how I used it, that was actually really, really kind of cool, because it was using it through someone else. I had a mentee who was really wanting to grow in her career, and she was trying to take on more from her boss, and her boss just wouldn't delegate. She wouldn't share any of her responsibilities in order to help this person grow. And so this individual who knew nothing about appreciative inquiry, nothing about that, hadn't read any of it, I suggested to her kind of this concept. I said, so what if you went to your manager and you asked, how her work's going, and is she doing everything that she would like to do? Is there any area that she wishes that she had more time for to dedicate her attention to that is being dragged down by some of these other tasks? And depending on that response, take that a step further. So again, these are the generative questions. Take that a step further, and those items that she lists that are kind of holding her back and preventing from her own career growth, start to see, well, what would it look like if I helped you on that? If I took that off your plate once a week, and start proposing it. And so she did that, and then she came back to our next meeting, and it went fantastic. Her boss was excited about the possibility of being able to grow in her own career and take on more and be more productive. It helped my mentee feel better because then she was starting to get new experiences and gain that relationship also with her manager. So this was a situation, like I said, where someone didn't even know what this concept was, but just kind of took the little ideas and the right kind of questions into a situation to open that. The only other piece that I think I wanted to mention was these kind of examples, just to give you a little bit more inspiration. So it has some of these in here of trying it with yourself, right? So why didn't I get more accomplished today? This is the before. So why didn't I get more accomplished today? How will I ever get this done? There aren't enough hours in the day. I'm exhausted, all those sorts of things. And then by flipping it, it looks more like I need to get this report finished by tomorrow. And how can I be the most effective today? How can I get it done by, whatever the time may be? So it's again, flipping it with your partner or spouse. It says, I'm not happy, you're always exhausted, and I'm tired of just watching TV. Why don't we ever do anything? And then after, when it's flipped, we used to do more fun things together, and I really love those times. I miss them. Remember when we da 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 da, and we should start doing that again. So they're just funny, simple situations, but really effective. So my task for you, if you're willing to do it, is at the end of this module, take these things that I've shared, these concepts, and just journal out or on a random notepad, or even just kind of think a little bit of what are some situations that you've been in where how would it have been different if you would have flipped it, right? So now it's in the past, so you already know what happened. But if you were to go back in time and look at it differently, how do you think that that would have played out? And what are some current situations that you're in now? I mean, we're wrapping up renewal season, getting ready for strategy. So as you're looking towards those strategy conversations with your clients, where are there opportunities to bring in these concepts? And as we're talking to our clients about strategy and they have constrained budgets, starting to ask the question in more of that generative fashion of what would it look like if you didn't have those barriers? Is there something that's working that could be exercised a little bit more? Or maybe it's just stepping stones, maybe it's like something that's going to be accomplished 5 years from now, but what can we do this coming year to get closer to that goal, right? Those are the sorts of phrasing that can help in those conversations. So that's my encouragement to you for this module, is to think through those situations and actually write them down and get some inspiration as we're getting ready to have more of our client conversations. Thank you so much, and I will see you back here for module 3.